Today we delve into the heart of Charles Dickens' classic, A Christmas Carol, but with a twist. John Simon's report challenges us to reconsider the true meaning behind the terms ignorance and want as presented in the story. Are these words simply about poverty, or do they mask deeper issues like envy and desire? As we journey through this analysis, we'll explore whether Dickens' tale truly addresses the roots of social inequity, or if it inadvertently shifts the blame and responsibility elsewhere. Let's begin our exploration into this Dickensian dilemma. Charles Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol in a time of great social upheaval. The story's focus on ignorance and want has often been interpreted as a call to recognize and address the plight of the poor, but Simon suggests that the use of these terms might be misguided or misdirected. Instead of simply highlighting poverty, could Dickens have been pointing to a broader societal issue? This scene sets the foundation for questioning whether the narrative's focus is truly on the poor, or if it's a reflection of deeper human emotions and societal structures. Simon argues that the terms ignorance and want are often misapplied. Instead of simply representing the conditions of the poor, these words might actually reflect broader issues such as envy and desire. This perspective challenges us to think beyond the surface and question whether the story's true message has been lost in translation. Are we focusing too much on the symptoms, rather than the underlying causes of social inequity? This scene encourages us to look deeper into the motivations and societal dynamics at play. Recurring theme in discussions about poverty is the tendency to assign blame. Simon points out that both the rich and the poor are often held responsible for the existence of ignorance and want. But is this fair? By examining the roles of different characters in A Christmas Carol, Mr. Scrooge, Mr. Cratchit, charity collectors, and the impoverished, we can see how blame is distributed. This scene invites us to consider whether the narrative truly addresses the root causes, or if it simply perpetuates stereotypes and misconceptions. Mr. Scrooge is often seen as the embodiment of greed and selfishness, but Simon asks us to reconsider his role. Is Scrooge a symbol of redemption and transformation, or is he simply a scapegoat for society's larger failings? By focusing on Scrooge's personal journey, do we risk ignoring the systemic issues that contribute to poverty and social inequity? This scene challenges us to reflect on whether individual transformation is enough to bring about true social change. The story of Scrooge's redemption is often celebrated as a triumph of personal growth. However, Simon raises an important question. Does this narrative actually provide social equity for the poor and impoverished, or does it simply offer a feel-good resolution that leaves deeper issues unaddressed? By examining the impact of Scrooge's transformation on those around him, we can better understand whether the story truly promotes social justice or merely glosses over the complexities of poverty. Simon's report asks us to consider who truly benefits from the story's focus on redemption and transformation. Is the narrative designed to comfort the wealthy, or does it genuinely seek to uplift the poor? By analyzing the motivations behind the story, we can uncover whether the message is one of genuine social responsibility or a subtle reinforcement of existing power structures. This scene encourages viewers to think critically about the intended audience and the real-world implications of the story's themes. Central question in Simon's report is the issue of social responsibility. Does A Christmas Carol place the burden of change on individuals like Scrooge, or does it call for broader societal action? By examining the roles of various characters and institutions, we can see how responsibility is assigned and whether the story encourages collective action or individual charity. This scene explores the tension between personal morality and systemic reform. Simon raises a provocative point. Does the story address public policy, or does it rely on religious institutions to provide social equity? By shifting responsibility from government to the church, the narrative may inadvertently ignore the need for systemic change. This scene examines the historical context of Victorian England, where the church often filled the gaps left by government in addressing poverty and social injustice. In Victorian England, the government had a clear responsibility to address social issues, yet often failed to do so. Simon points out that this duty was neglected, with the burden shifted to religious institutions. This scene explores how government inaction contributed to systemic inequity, and how the delegation of social care to the church created a system of privilege and unfairness. By understanding this dynamic, we can better appreciate the complexities of social reform. Harsh realities of workhouses, slums, and poor sanitary conditions were a direct result of government neglect. Simon argues that focusing solely on individual morality, as in the case of Scrooge, sidesteps the true reasons for these social ills. This scene highlights the importance of addressing structural issues, rather than placing the blame on individuals or celebrating isolated acts of charity. The need for systemic reform becomes clear when we examine the living conditions of the time. By allowing the church to determine who receives social equity, Victorian society created a system of privilege and systemic unfairness. Simon's report suggests that this delegation of responsibility perpetuated social divisions and left many at the mercy of arbitrary decisions. This scene examines how privilege and inequity were maintained through institutional structures, and why true reform requires more than just good intentions. Simon questions whether governments truly serve all constituents, or just a privileged few. By governing for a select percentage, those left behind are forced to rely on the mercy of religious institutions. This scene explores the implications of selective governance and the resulting social inequity. It challenges us to consider what true representation and social justice should look like in a fair society. Returning to Simon's central thesis, we are asked to consider whether the real issues at play are envy and desire, rather than ignorance and want. By reframing the discussion, we can better understand the motivations behind social policies and personal actions. This scene encourages viewers to reflect on how envy and desire shape societal structures and influence the distribution of wealth and opportunity. As we conclude our exploration, it's clear that A Christmas Carol offers more than just a tale of personal redemption. Simon's report challenges us to rethink the story's core messages and consider the broader societal implications. Are we truly addressing the root causes of social inequity, or simply comforting ourselves with stories of individual change? By questioning the roles of government, religion, and personal responsibility, we can move closer to a more just and equitable society. The conversation doesn't end here. Let's continue to seek deeper understanding and meaningful reform.